Chapter 13. In the morning the wind had been coming from the north, but now it had turned and was behind them. The journey was so calm it seemed as if they were quite still in the air. The coast of Västerbotten ran below them, and the ground almost appeared to be moving beneath them. Had it perhaps gotten tired of standing still so far up north? Nils imagined the whole of Västerbotten marching south. A visit of that kind would certainly cause some raised eyebrows. The eagle gradually increased speed. "We're heading into Lapland now," he said. But Nils was disappointed when he saw nothing but bogs and forests and bogs, and he grew so sleepy he almost fell off. Gorgo at once grabbed him in his claws and called out, "Falling asleep, Tom Thumb?" "The sun keeps me awake, so I go on into the night." He swung him up into space, an elk looking at them in surprise, and although the boy was so uncomfortable, he nevertheless dozed off and was soon sound asleep. When he woke, he was alone down in a large mountain valley. He got up and looked around, then saw a peculiar construction of pine branches up on a cliff ledge. That must be the kind of eyrie Gorgo. Before he had time to think the thought out, he snatched his cap off his head, swung it round, and shouted, "Hurrah!" Gorgo had put him down in the valley where the eagle lived on the ledge, and the wild geese were down in the valley. He was there! Slowly he walked on, looking for his friends. The whole of the valley was quite quiet, the sun not yet up over the edge of the cliff, so Nils Holgersson realized it was so early in the morning the wild geese had not yet woken up. Nils searched in the undergrowth and in crevices, and found stranger geese as well as the wild geese from his own flock, but he didn't wake them. He thought he saw something white glimmering in some bushes, and his heart started thumping with joy. Yes, it was true. There was Dunfin sitting on her eggs, the white gander beside her. Although he was asleep, it was clear he was proud to be standing guard over his wife in the mountains of Lapland. Without waking him, the boy went on. Over on a little hill, he saw something like a gray tussock, and when he got closer, he saw it was a Ka from Kebnujensky standing on guard over the valley. "Good day, Mother Aka," called the boy. "How good that you're awake. Don't wake the others, because I want to talk to you alone." The old leader goose rushed down the slope to meet the boy, at first grabbing him and shaking him, then stroking his back with her beak, then shaking him again, but quietly so as not to wake any of the others. Nils kissed Mother Aka on both cheeks and told her how he had been taken to Skansen and how he had found Gorgo, pitiful and miserable, in the eagle cage. "At first I thought I'd file through the wire and let him out, but then I thought what a dangerous robber and bird-eater he is, so I thought it best that he stayed inside. Was that right of me, Mother Aka?" "No, Nils, the eagles are prouder and greater lovers of freedom than most other creatures, and you can't keep them shut up. When you have rested, you and I will make a journey down to the bird prison and let him out." "That's what I expected you to say, Mother Aka," said Nils happily. "Now I know that despite everything, you are fond of the one you brought up with so much trouble. And if you want to thank whoever carried me here to you, then you'll find him up on the rocky ledge where you once found a helpless eaglet." Nils Holgersson thought he had never been to such a fair country, and he had no worries except preventing the swarms of mosquitoes from eating him up. He saw a little of Martin, as the great white gander's only thought was to stand guard over his Dunfin. But Nils stayed with Aka and Gorgo, and they spent many happy hours with each other on long trips. Gorgo took him up to the peak of the snow-capped Kebnujensky, where he could look down on the glaciers spreading out below the white cone, as well as many other mountains seldom trodden by human feet. Aka showed him caves in the rock where the she-wolf brought up her cubs, and torn marsh where great herds of reindeer were grazing on the shores. He was also taken to meet the bears, and one day they flew to a small lake far away in the north. At the south end of the lake was a huge mountain mastiff called Krunavara, which appeared to consist entirely of iron ore, and on the other side a mountain equally rich in iron. They were building a railway up there, as well as a station and housing for all the workers and engineers who were to live there and extract the ore. Rock was being blasted, walls built, timber sawn, so a whole small town was beginning to emerge. West of the lake, the ground was open and free, and a Lapp family or two had struck camp there. All they had to do was to cut down a few oyster bushes to make a clear space, and when they had fixed their tent poles into the ground and hung the tent onto them, their dwelling was ready. They had no more trouble over furnishing, a few spruce branches and reindeer skins on the floor, and a chain fastened to the top of the tent poles for the iron pot to hang from when cooking their reindeer meat. The settlers in Kiruna had a great deal of work to do to get their houses ready before the hard winter came. They were surprised at the Lapps, who had roamed around up there for centuries with no more protection against the cold and storms than thin tent walls. And the Lapps were surely equally surprised when the settlers took so much trouble and worked so hard, when in order to exist, no more was required than a few reindeer and a tent. Yet it was fine country. Nils was glad he had been allowed to see it, but he had no desire to live there forever. No, he thought Akka was right when she said the settlers might just as well leave the countryside in peace to the bears, wolves, and reindeer, and of course the Lapps.